Yeah, so Mark, just right off the back, we'll jump right into it. Your time at Florida, you had a special time. You know, you had the one of the trophies that they were able to capture. You were a part of that group, a
For
legendary
sure.
group at the University of Florida, baseball wise. Take me back through just if you can explain that in a quick recap, what it was like playing under O'Sullivan, that run, just your time and leading up to that. How was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great group of guys. Honestly, that's the biggest thing for me is we were just such a tight group of guys, and well, we had some really good teams the 2 years before that. Prior, we made it to Omaha both those 2 years, just weren't able to get it done. But I think the biggest difference was that my junior year, our group of guys and the camaraderie we had, we were able to just stick together. And through all that year, was tough. We had dealt with a lot of injuries throughout the year, but we always had somebody able to step up and get the job done for us throughout the whole year. And I just think the biggest thing was honestly the coaches put us in a situation to stay tight together, and I think that was the biggest thing for us.
And so I'm from Deland. I saw you're from Tavares. MLB says you're from Eustis. I don't know where you identify with. But would you say was Florida your dream school growing up? Some guys I talked to it wasn't. Some guys it was. How was Florida for you making that decision? Obviously, for a legendary career that you guys have there.
Yeah, no, for sure. Florida was always my dream school. I had some offers for some other schools around in Florida, but I knew Florida was always where I wanted to go. So when they
Right.
offered me a preferred walk-on spot there, I was like, for sure, I'll go. I'd love it. And it was the best decision I ever made.
I actually didn't know you were a preferred walk on. So how has that come to fruition? You know, being a preferred walk on, turning it into a draft pick from the Cincinnati Reds. What does that mean to you? And how did O'Sullivan, did he play a role in that process at all?
Yeah, I mean, it was honestly a long road, but I feel like it was honestly something that was really good for me. Is gave me a chance to grow and just being around the guys at Florida. I mean, that was probably the best decision. Those everybody, our practices are so tough there. I'm sure you've seen a lot of them. You just get a chance to work with some of the best players at that age, you know. So every day going to work or going to the field every day with those guys was the best thing I could have done. I feel like at a lot of the other schools in the area, there might not have had that kind of competition, and I think that's something that really helped me grow as a player and develop. So I just think the competition there is the best thing for you.
Yeah, and from that squad too, a lot of you guys moved on into pro ball.
Mm-hmm.
I like to ask this question too: is there certain players from that group, maybe even before or after you, that you've been able to connect with now that you're in pro ball?
Like former Gators or
Yeah,
guys that played
former
with.
Gators that you may have played with that you kind of keep in groups with. I talked to Christian
Yeah,
Scott, and he talks to multiple guys to this day. They have a group chat
yeah.
that he leans on. Maybe is that a similar role for you as well?
Yeah, I know for sure. So me and like Brady Singer, we grew up together because he's from that same area
Eustace, yeah.
in high school, and then obviously we were able to play at Florida together. Jackson Coar, me and him are still really close friends. Ryan Larson, he was another older guy that was there. Me and Nathan Hickey were actually able to play a lot of the year together this year with the Red Sox. Dalton Guthrie, we were together a lot this year. So it's kind of crazy. I feel like every day you look over at the other team you're playing against, and it's like, oh, there's another Gator there. So
Yeah.
it's really cool, and just something you'll go over and then reach out to them. And it's even guys I've never met before. You know, we have that connection of like the University of Florida and just the way you kind of handle business wearing the Gator jersey there. So it's really cool and something I think that's really awesome. Even not knowing a guy going up to him like, oh hey, saw you went to Florida.
Yeah.
You know, it's like and they're like, oh cool, and then, like just anything from there. So
That's cool. I got to talk to Dalton at spring training last year, and he mentioned your name too. So that's pretty cool that you
yeah,
guys do stick together. Now, personally, for you, we'll kind of push into more pro ball now. A couple of things that I've been hearing a trend is how different it was. You know, I spent time in Daytona. You've seen it too. It's how different. You know, you go from Florida. There's so many resources available to you. You get to pro ball. Not that you're getting put at the bottom of the ladder again, but in certain ways you are. How
yeah.
much different is the day to day, the process, the approach, and how has Florida prepared you for that? Is what I've been hearing too.
Definitely very different. So, I mean, like Florida, you play your weekends, and then you'd have like one or two midweeks every week. So,
Right.
versus when you get into pro ball, it's an everyday thing. Like, definitely back, especially when I first started, we would have playing every day, bus trips everywhere. It's a little bit different now with the 6 day schedules, playing same place every or for a week straight. I feel like it definitely kind of helped it out, but that travel can be brutal, and just getting mentally prepared every day and trying to get yourself ready to play every day. can definitely be a challenge. But I feel like Florida honestly really prepared me for it. I was like every day, like you'd be in the training room getting something done. So I feel like it's something you got to kind of carry into like the professional world as well. So I definitely think Florida helped prepare me as best they could.
Yeah, and you played with Florida for your whole collegiate career.
Mhm.
Pro ball is different. I was going through your track record. You spent some time with the Orioles. Now you're with the Red Sox. Just
Sure.
if you can encapsulate your minor league career now, you also spent some time in the majors. We'll get into that. What's that been like for you from a mental standpoint of always having to pivot, move, adjust to different things, moving locations? Just tell me a little bit about that as well.
So I think that was like the biggest difference from like pro ball to like at Florida. Like when you're at Florida, it's like your guys that come in the fall, like those are your guys you're with pretty much all year long, right? Like you might get one or two guys at the end of fall for the spring, but like that doesn't really happen much. Versus in pro ball, everywhere there's new faces every day. People are getting released, people are getting called up, people are getting sent down. So I feel like that's kind of one of the things that kind of separates that. You're not able to really form those relationships a lot of the time because you don't know who all is going to be there the next day. Versus that pro ball experience or that Gator experience is like
Yeah.
you're really able like these are the guys you're fighting with every day. Like love them, hate them. Like you gotta get the job done. So pro ball can be a little different in that aspect for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, going back to climbing the ladder, the highs and lows. I kind of want to get into that. We'll start with the highs for you. So far, like you've been to different cities. It's got to be pretty cool. I'm from Deland. I haven't been able to travel that far that much. A boy from
Yeah.
Tavares or Eustis. I can imagine how much you get out. How cool has it been for you? Do you have maybe a specific place you've been that you've liked the most? Favorite memory? What's the highs been for you through this journey through baseball?
I mean, definitely for me, it was getting to the big leagues. I think that was really cool. That was like the best experience I've ever had. Like that was always the childhood dream. Also, I think playing in the Olympics, that was something I really didn't expect to happen, but was like able to accomplish. And we're still really tight with a bunch of those guys that were on my Olympic team. So I thought that was really cool. Something I never thought I would ever do. And I was growing up watching like the Olympics and everything. I thought that was like really cool and watching it. And then actually being there, it was kind of like, oh, wow, this is crazy. So I'm actually here. I think those are two of my biggest highlights. So it was getting to the big leagues and playing in the Olympics.
Yeah, is there a point in your career? I mean, obviously you get drafted and you realize, okay, I have what it takes to play at a professional level. Was there a certain point in time, maybe in the minors now, that you realized, okay, I have the stuff, I have the tools. Now it's just my mind to get me there. Was there a certain point you reached in that time period that you can recall?
I don't know if there's ever a specific like moment. I feel like I was always just like hanging around the guys and I was, able to compete and I've
Yeah.
never really thought about it at that like, hey, like this is the time I can do this. I feel like I've always had like the confidence and know that I'm built like have the ability to do it. I just need to get the opportunities.
Yeah, that's true. Your call up, I'm sure that's got to be one of the highs too. Give me a little quick background story about that. How was that whole experience? I talked to Christian Scott. He was able to make his debut
Yeah.
this year. He was ecstatic, but he said he battled some nerves and some doubt in his mind. What are some things that, maybe you battled on top of a huge, exciting news that you received in the same day?
Yeah. Definitely a lot of nerves. I mean, when you get in there, it's like, well, what's going on? So my debut technically was when is in San Diego. I came in as like a defensive replacement, at catching, and it's wild. Definitely like trying to like for catchers, you have so much stuff you have to deal with too. So
Yeah.
it's like trying to balance pitching staffs and like obviously I hadn't really had much experience with the guys that I was catching, so that's like a whole other thing trying to call the right pitches for them. Definitely a lot, but it was an unbelievable experience and definitely the nerves. But like I feel like once you start getting going, it's baseball. It's you've been doing this your whole life, so it's kind of more for me. It was the before the fact of actually getting out there, and then once I was in, it's like, hey, you can do this. Like you know what you're doing. So it's
Yeah.
definitely more pre nerves than actually once I'm there.
I never really thought about that too, from a pitcher's perspective, everybody's watching you on the mound, but gosh, as a defensive replacement, it's got to be
Yeah,
very difficult to adjust to how guys pitch and knowing
for
what they
sure.
like and calling pitches as well. That's got to be
Yeah,
tough. So, on top of being on the road too, props to you for that.
yeah,
We'll switch into, the lows are a thing. And baseball is the game of failure.
for sure.
How do you deal with failure? How do you deal with adversity? Have you seen that in minor league ball? Obviously, you've played with a few teams. Have you seen adversity and how do you respond?
Honestly, I feel like adversity is like the biggest thing in baseball. It's like you'll see guys that'll come and go just because they can't really handle the failure sometimes. But I feel like you just got to realize that's part of baseball, and it's going to be a part of baseball no matter what. However high you ever get, like you're going to come back down eventually. So I feel like I've always just tried to keep approach where it's just like, hey, this is just keep going out there and sticking to your what you know if you've had success with in the past, and just keep going after it. I mean, ups and downs doesn't really matter as long as you're out there just having fun and enjoying the moment. It's not going to last forever. So honestly, just keep going after it and having fun.
Yeah, how much do you take the mental aspect of baseball? Have you always taken that approach? Have you always realized how valuable it is? And if not, how have you tried to feed into that?
Yeah, no, I've definitely. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of always how I've approached it. Is just, hey, like this is fun.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, this is still a game. Like we're having fun out here. That's how I've kind of always got after it.
Yeah, mental. It's cues too. As a hitter, you have things that you think yes, yes, no, other things like that. Is there an approach or a mental note that you keep in yourself, showing up to the ballpark, going to the field, getting your reps in? What's something that you tell yourself consistently that keeps that fire under your butt to keep going?
Mental cues.
I'm putting you on spot here. I'm sorry.
I think it's just honestly just trying to stay positive. I've seen so many people get in such negative like headspaces that like I feel like once you get there, you're not really going to accomplish anything. It's hard to, at least at that point. So just staying positive with yourself and knowing that like failures are part of this thing and you'll get through it eventually.
Yeah. And with that too, I saw that recently while I was just reading through your history. You've selected free agency. I'm not sure if you've done that before. Just going back and forth. What's that new world like for you now? Sometimes it's uncertainty. You don't never know what's going to happen. How do you approach that? How do you stay positive, even outside of baseball, to keep a balance as well?
Yeah, so like last year was the first year that I was actually a free agent, so this will be the second year.
Yeah.
But honestly, just hope for the best. I mean, there's teams out there, and hopefully they see the value in me and see that I can bring something to their ball club and help them contribute and win baseball games. But I think it's honestly just staying positive about it and keeping working, especially in the off season. Like this is the time you get able to get the most actual work in without having to like have the pressure of playing games every day, right? So it's like a
Right.
good time to be able to actually get swing changes in whenever you feel like you need to prepare yourself for the season.
Yeah. So, like, what does an off season look like for Mark? What does it look like for you? Do you come back home? Where you spend your time? How do you get away from baseball? It's your whole life. How do you
Yeah.
get away from it a little bit in the off season?
So I'm in Tampa, so do a lot
Okay.
of golfing, get some fishing in. That's my two favorite things to do. So, and I feel like in the off season, especially just because all my friends are a lot of them are baseball players. So that's like a lot of times everybody's getting married. So I feel like I never stop going to weddings this time of year.
Weddings and golf and fishing sounds like a
Yeah.
healthy trio to
Yeah.
live life. Are you any good at golf right now? Like, how much time do you have been able to get into it?
Oof. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good right now. I just
Okay.
got back from a bachelor trip to Pinehurst, so it was a good time.
Wow. What a spot to play golf, huh?
Yeah, for sure. It was a
Love
good
to
one.
see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. As I wrap up here, it's always good to be able to keep a balance. I think that's another thing that as I've talked to other guys, they really feed into just when you can take your mind off things, being able to understand that it is a game. Advice to Gators that are still here, guys that are coming in, playing, guys that are walk-ons, guys like Jack Caglion. There's so many different type of
Yeah.
players. What's your advice to those guys that you wish you would have known in college going into pro ball that you may have learned now?
Uh, just enjoy the time with those guys because it doesn't last forever. It's like those guys you're only there for a year. And a lot of times I feel like you're like such a rush to get. Like, I want to go get pro ball. I want to go do on to the next thing. But I feel like really enjoying that moment when those if you're with those guys because I feel like once you get to pro ball, it's those guys. You're not nearly as close to those guys as you are at the college level. You really get to enjoy like spend the time with those guys, go out with them, have fun with them, really embrace that.
Yeah, and then last question here, as like I stated at the beginning, it's a ladder. You kind of get thrown into the fire and you get put in the spotlight in college. Sometimes you got to get right back to it and push through. And obviously, you've had a little taste of the big leagues, which I'll be praying for you to get it again.
For sure.
Um, is there a way that you think minor league ball could highlight minor league players and MLB could spread light on them, to kind of give light to the journey that it does take? It's a very unique aspect that no other sport offers. Is there a way or aspect you think they can improve on to help highlight you guys?
Hmm. I feel like we play a lot of games. I guess maybe just work on the video production side of it, I guess. I
Yeah.
feel like it's decent for at some places you'll go to. Other places I feel like sometimes family has trouble watching games, so maybe if there's a way they can increase the production level there sometimes. Honestly though, sometimes it's tough to get like those tough games to watch. I mean, a lot of times guys are developing there, so like
Yeah.
sometimes they're not the most clean finished products like you see at the big league level.